Hey y'all, welcome to today's e-learning notes. Today we're talking about how to find the volume of a cone. Now a cone is a three-dimensional figure with one circular base connected by a curved surface to a single vertex. So I think we all know what a cone looks like, ice cream cone, think of that. But the volume of a cone we can find, remember volume is how much space an object takes up. Well, the volume of a cone with a radius r is 1/3 the area of the base, which is our circle, times the height, which is how tall it is. So 1/3 the base times height. Well, we know the base is a circle. And again, the area of a circle is pi r squared. So if I do pi r squared times the height, I know that I get a cylinder. But we don't have a cylinder. We have a cone. So we multiply it by 1/3 or divide it by 3. So make sure you know that to find the volume, there it is, volume of a cone, we will take 1/3 times pi r squared times the height. Let's go ahead and look at some examples of this. So let's go ahead and do this first example that they've given us here. And just a point of information, this formula here will be given to you on your test, so you do not need to memorize it. All you need to know how to do is to apply it to these different problems. So I'm going to write out, we have 1/3 pi, remember we're using the pi button, not 3.14, we're using our pi button on our calculator, times r squared. Well, our radius of this is 3. So I have 3 squared, which is 9, so I'm just going to plug in 9, times our height, which in this problem is 6. So I can go ahead and do my multiplication and then divide it by 3. I can multiply 1/3 by pi, whichever order really I want to do this multiplication, because we have commutative property of multiplication. I think it's easier to multiply these out and then divide it by 3, just when plugging it into a calculator. So let's look at what this looks like. We have a 9 times 6 right here, times pi, click your pi button, equals that big old thing. And we're going to divide that by 3. I'm dividing it by 3 because it's the same thing as multiplying it by 1/3. And then as always, I want to round to the nearest tenth for these types of problems. So 56.5 inches, and I'm in volume, so it's cubed. So 56.5 inches cubed is the answer to that first problem. So we have two problems right here, A and B. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video, try to solve these problems on your own piece of paper, notebook, whatever you're following along on. Go ahead and try to solve these two problems, and then we'll go over them in a second. So you should have solved those problems. So let's go ahead and go over them. So our first one is A. So for A, I have 1/3 times pi times r squared. Our r is 2, so 2 squared is 4. So times 4 times that 2 squared is just gone now. I turned it into that 4. Times our height, which is 7. Alright. So go ahead and plug that into your handy dandy calculator. This time I'm just going to do it left to right, just to show you that we can do that either way. So 1 divided by 3 is our first, because that's how I do a fraction on my calculator, times our pi button, times 4, times 7, and we get 29.3. So we should have 29.3, and don't forget we're solving for volume here, and we're in feet, so it is feet cubed. And for B, okay, they've given us this whole space here, the diameter of this base. We don't really need the diameter of the base. The diameter of the base is lame. We don't need it. We want half of it. We want the radius. So half of this 24 would be 12. And 12 squared is 144. So I'm going to plug 144 in, times our height. And the height here, even though this is vertical, this is still the height of our cone, because it's from the center of that circle up to the vertex here at the very top. So we have 26 as our height. Let's go ahead and plug that in just by multiplying it and then dividing by 3. So we get 26 times 144 times our pi divided by 3. So we should get 3,920. Let me double check our answer here. Yeah, 3,920, and don't forget that we are rounding to the nearest tenth. So we don't have to write that whole thing out. We just have that 3,920.7, and then I think we're working in millimeters. Yep, millimeters. And we're talking about volume, so we're cubed. So 3,920.7 millimeters cubed. The next type of problem we're going to run into is when they don't give us a diagram. They've only given us the words here. So we are going to have to interpret that in order to use it for our formula here. The cone-shaped paper cup, so I know I'm using the cone formula. The height of the cup is 10 centimeters. So we have 10 centimeters is equal to our height. Or if you want to do h is equal to 10, might be better. And the diameter, our diameter is 8 centimeters. So don't forget we're in centimeters. Well, we don't want the diameter. Diameter is lame. And the diameter is twice the radius. So if I divide the diameter by 2, I should get the radius. So our radius then is going to be equal to 4 centimeters. So we're not using this 8, we're actually using the radius, which is 4. Find the volume of the paper cup, round to the nearest tenth. So let's go ahead and solve this problem now that we have figured out the diameter was just a distractor with that 8. So we have 1/3 pi times our radius, which is 4, squared. 4 times 4 is 16, times our height of 10. I got that 16 by doing 4 squared. So let's go ahead and plug that in to your handy dandy calculator once you've typed it out. So you have 1/3. Well, let's just do the multiplication divided by 3 again. I like that strategy better. 10 times, not 110, whoopsie. 10 times 16, 160, times our pi. Divide that by 3. We get 167. And remember, we're rounding to the nearest tenth. So if we're rounding to the nearest tenth, that means, sorry, let me double check our answer here. Yup. We should get 167.6 because we're rounding to the nearest tenth. 167.6 centimeters. And because we are talking about volume here, don't forget to say cubed. And if you ever have to say this in words, because this is a word problem, you could say 167.6 cubic centimeters. This is saying the same thing as this, but for the most part, we'll be just using this for our answers when you're selecting multiple choice for the tests and things like that. So let's go ahead and see our last example, which is talking about, brings back our composite shapes. So let's go ahead and do this problem. So this problem we have here, we have a cylinder and we have a cone. So do you remember how to find the volume? And we need to find the volume of this entire shape. How do I find the volume of a cylinder? Does anyone remember? Hopefully you remember. The volume of a cylinder which is our shape we have on top here, is our pi r squared, that circle formula for the area, pi r squared, times the height, because all a cylinder is stacked circles. So now that we have the volume of both of our two shapes, we have both of our formulas that we need here, we can just plug in our measurements they've given us here. Again, they've given us the diameter. The diameter is 8. So if the diameter is 8, that means our radius has to be 4, because radius is half of our diameter. So now I can plug these in. Let's do the cone in blue. So our cone is in blue here. So I'm going to do my cone first. So our cone's height is 5 here. Not 9, because it's not the total height of this. I'm only looking at the cone aspect. So our cone's height is 5, and we know the radius has to be the same radius as this circle up here, which we've established is 4. Again, 4 times 4 are 4 squared. That looks like a 9. Our 4 squared gives us 16 times our height of 5. And that's going to give us our cone's volume. So pull out your calculator. Do 5 times 16 times pi. Then we have to divide that by 3 to get, remember to round to the nearest tenth, we get 83.8. I think we're talking about feet. Yep, feet cubed. So that's the volume of our cone. But that's not what we need. We just need, that's just part of it. Our other part is finding the volume of this cylinder, this top part. So we have that pi times r, we've established is 4 squared, times our height. Well, the height of our cylinder is 4. So pull out your calculator, and you have 4, let me pull it up here, 4 squared times 4, or just 4 cubed, times pi. Enter. So our volume of our cylinder is 201.1 feet cubed. So now that I have both of these, am I done? Almost. I need one more step. My last step is going to be adding these two together. So I need to add this 83.8 to this 201.5. We're both in feet cubed. So our unit's going to be feet cubed together. 1 plus 8 is a 9. 1.1 and a 3 is a 4. 0 and an 8 is an 8. So 284.9 feet cubed would be our answer for this combined shape, this composite shape that they've given us here. Hopefully you understand that. Hopefully these notes have made sense to you. If they don't make sense, go ahead and send me an email, or look at the or go back and look at the cylinder formulas if that's what's confusing you. If it's not confusing, hopefully this is pretty easy with just plugging into formulas. You can go ahead and work on your assignment, which is on Schoology.